government, please put your heart. Let my parents be free with everybody else, please.
ICE agents raided food processing plants across the state, arresting nearly 700 mostly Latino undocumented workers. It was the largest single-day one-state sweep in U.S. history. It was also first day of school.
I think that it is a gross display of our humanity, or the lack thereof. Anytime we leave children on the first day of school, that's another factor that took place. Children without parents when they arrive home. That is a sad display of where we have come to as a nation.
Why aren't we rounding up the owners of the factories that are knowingly hiring cheap labor? Why aren't they the ones that are being prosecuted? Why aren't they the ones that are being held accountable?
Michael Hurst, who is the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Mississippi, point blank, what about the employers? What about these companies? If you're trying to send a message, why aren't they in trouble right now? And he said, I'm going to have to remain vague on that. That could mean there's an ongoing investigation. But I also asked, is it because perhaps these companies cooperated, handed over their employees, knew full well what would happen when their employees came to work that day, and for that they may be able to get some sort of lighter fine or lighter penalty for hiring these illegal workers?
Look at that shit. Somebody look. They blitzed. Somebody got shot in their head.
Tonight, Philadelphia police officers under siege, a gunman barricaded inside a home on this residential street, the neighborhood on lockdown. The first shots fired around 4:30.
We were pinned down on the second floor with 3 individuals handcuffed. You can hear the male downstairs moving in the first floor.
At least 6 officers shot. You can see the bullets ricocheting off nearby homes just feet away from those officers taking cover behind parked cars.
We have an officer shot, and they're still being shot at.
Police seen rushing their wounded brothers out of the line of fire and into police cruisers.
Please send additional cars immediately. Additional cars.
Gunshots heard in the background as officers called for backup.
It's all about the officers and their families right now, and God bless them, and God save them all.
Tears and tragedy. I'm Andre Coleman.
I'm Carl Kozlowski.
It's Friday, NewsRap live at 5. Well, as you heard at the top, Barry's not here today. Guest co-host.
I'm Carl Kozlowski, Pasadena Weekly's arts editor and film critic, and we've worked together for a mighty long time.
17 years.
17 years.
17 long years.
Very.
He would say 17 glorious years. I don't know if I'd say that, though.
Well,
so tell people a little bit about what you do, Carl.
Well, I picked the funnest, as far as I can tell, the most interesting and fun events for people to do within the Pasadena general area every week, and also review movies. And I'm on Rotten Tomatoes, so my reviews are not rotten; they are indeed fresh every week. But or some might say, but yeah, I pick the events, and then I let people know what's how to have a good time every weekend.
A little bit of stand-up comedy?
Oh, yeah, I do stand-up comedy also. Been at the Ice House a few times, not just in the audience, but, yeah.
Okay. Welcome, man. It's good to have you here.
Yes, thank you. It is wonderful to be here.
So coming back to it, horrible images at the top of the show.
Yes.
Immigration, and we come back to gun violence again.
Yeah.
2 of the biggest issues in the country right now. Where do you want to start?
Boy, I mean, I think the ICE raids are emblematic because it came out, they happened like within a day or two of the horrible shootings in El Paso, in particular, that was really aimed at Latinos. And I think it speaks very poorly of the timing. I heard on MSNBC that they could have waited a few days, give some people time to get their bearings back and not feel like it's just another crushing blow instantly.
But explain this to me. The president says that these are the worst people coming into the country, are the worst of these nations, that they are not the best nor the brightest. They're the murderers, they're the crooks, they're the lazy. We're not getting the best and the brightest. So if we're not getting the best and the brightest, how come when we conduct these raids, we're always going to places of employment? These people have jobs.
Uh-huh.
These are not unemployed people.
Yeah, sure.
These are not horrible people.
Yeah.
These are people who are trying to take care of their family.
Yeah.
And then to pop and bust people as they're taking their kids to school, literally, I mean, how low can you go? I mean, we saw a little girl at the beginning of the show crying. I mean, how bad can it be? And just to toss out a little bit of your back history, I mean, you are the son
of an immigrant, from Poland.
Of immigrants.
Yeah. And it is, very, I mean, my dad came through legally. So for a long time, I'll admit I was not as sympathetic as I should be. And I've come to realize over the last couple of months that things are really just, we're just not being kind or humane or fair to so many people. And I think a lot of it actually was stories by one of our freelance writers, Justin Chapman. He actually went to El Paso and actually saw hundreds, if not thousands, of people being held in fencing underneath a bridge in horrible conditions day and night. And when I saw that, it's like, okay, this is somebody I know.
Who's experienced it.
And I trust him. And, it cut through all the hype over what to believe or who do you trust in the news. And that really made me go, okay, I believe this is really a big problem.
Now, Justin has an interesting story in this week's Pasadena Weekly, actually on gun violence and immigration issues, where he covers a vigil held at Villa Park for the mass shootings. And at that event, they even talked about starting a rapid response team in Pasadena in response to ICE. But I want to come back to gun violence because I think that is an issue that right now nobody really knows how to get their hands under.
Sure.
What do we do here?
Well,
people will scream Second Amendment. People will say they have the right to protect themselves and protect their families and all that stuff. But how do we keep everybody safe?
Well, I think that the idea of background checks, Trump needs to be held completely accountable to, lead the way within his party. That they always, whenever one of these tragedies happen, they seem to talk about, we can do meaningful background checks, and then it goes nowhere. And I think now the time has come to stop letting it go nowhere.
You know what? I don't know. Barry and I have talked about it. I don't think there's an easy answer to the question, obviously. Before the show started, you had a really good point with
Australia or what?
Australia. And I want you to kind of hit on that again, and then we'll talk about gun buybacks.
Well, Australia, they had a real problem with, but it's proportionally, they have a giant landmass, but with a lot less people. But in principle, so it may not be practical in America to do this or as much of it, but they basically did such a good buyback, offered some real incentive money that I don't know what the percentage of guns, if there's any way of knowing how many came in, but the amount of gun crimes plummeted and stayed down.
So through buybacks, they significantly impacted gun violence.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that could work here?
Well, you mentioned to me that people often are always offered just Target cards or whatever.
Yeah,
when you're seeing cash laid out, I think that would draw people in.
You know what? I think people always respond positively to cash.
Yeah.
But also something we talked about. I think that, if you were to tell a felon, if you're convicted, we'd reduce some time.
Yeah.
If you gave up weapons.
But if you're out being able to hand off the weapons, your time is over anyway.
No.
How about parole time or what?
No, you're running. Maybe you're on the run.
Oh, okay.
It gives people a chance to start wiping the slate clean. And if you have traffic warrants or misdemeanors, then we can excuse those in exchange for getting guns off the street. I think that has to be the effort. The effort has to be, background checks are great. All those things are great. Mental illness legislation, great. All those ideas are great. But the issue becomes that right now, today, if another gun doesn't go on the street, we already have way too many guns on the street.
Yeah.
So there has to be an effort to reduce the number of guns that are on the street, legally and illegally.
Sure.
That could lead to an incident like that. So I think that's where we need to start first. I think we need to have a national buyback day. all 50 states, major cities, small cities around the country, police departments involved. I saw something on NBC one time. They had a buyback, and somebody turned in a rocket launcher.
Really?
I kid you not. Somebody turned in a rocket launcher.
Huh.
So people have some serious stuff out there, man. And we got to get it out. I mean, that's how we make people safe. Actually, in here, outside of Justin's story, which is really, really interesting. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I want you guys to check it out. I just want you guys to check out some of the stories. A lot on immigration. We're going to get into one of your stories, which indirectly and directly relates to that and Donald Trump, which we talk about a lot on this show. And then coming back around to, here's a headline, Pasadena's call for gun control and immigration reform at Villa Park. We're going to see that in a second here, a little bit more information on that. So, you ready to move on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you want to stick to this for a few seconds?
No, I'm fine.
All right.
You're the man.
Let's go to elections.
Okay.
So, Elizabeth Warren is rising, and that's Barry's favorite candidate.
Okay.
Kamala Harris is teetering, my favorite candidate.
Oh, really?
Who do you like?
Again, people are going to really love me, but you can verify, you can vouch. He's seen me really talk at length about this. I had been leaning towards the evil orange one. You know, I voted third party protest.
Sitting in office talking about Donald Trump.
Okay, well, I voted third party in protest with Ron Johnson in 2016. However, as I finally realized the obvious that this guy is really a racist, I just was like, I can't do this.
So what opened up your eyes to that? Let me ask you, what opened up your eyes? What made you go,
I think it was
I'm on the wrong track?
It was more that he was coming off extremely more and more unstable in his tweets, that I was like, gosh, this guy it's just embarrassing day after day. It was in June. There was this whole string, and even on weekends, the guy was like saying stuff that people were like, what? And I can't remember the specifics, but then when he did the thing about the 4 congresswomen,
go back to your own country.
Yeah, and it's like, that is just flat out racist.
Yeah, you can't deny it.
And then B, he's an idiot on top of it because he didn't even bother to take the time to think and realize, 3 out of the 4 of them going back to where they came from is inside the U.S.
Yeah, she's going back to Brooklyn.
I mean, come on.
You know,
So who I'm for, I'm shopping. I'm looking at the Democratic debates. I don't think that she has a chance in hell, unfortunately, but I find Tulsi Gabbard interesting in a lot of ways, but then I've heard that a lot of Republicans find her appealing, but so she probably has no chance because she has a mix of left and right, her views. Mm-hmm. But then also I find Pete Buttigieg the most interesting, but whether he's going to break out, I don't know.
He has no chance of breaking out because he will not resonate with African Americans.
Oh, that's
and
right.
He's desperately. You know, going back to that Trump thing, so the tweets,
yeah,
the instability and all that made you realize it. Wow, if only you had some clue 3 years ago. Let's go to local news briefs.
This is your local news brief for Friday, August 16th, 2019. Robin's Woodfire Barbecue and Grill is set to close on Sunday, August 18th, after 37 years of business. Owner Robin Salazar is retiring in order to spend more time with his family. In his time as a restaurateur, Salazar, who has owned multiple restaurants, has given back to his community. Every Wednesday, he provides meals for 150 to 200 people in need at the Jackie Robinson Community Center. According to an email sent out by Salazar, Robin's Woodfire Barbecue and Grill will continue to cater and serve the Rose Bowl, but the building will be leased to another operator. In a Pasadena Now article, Salazar is quoted as saying, "It has been a truly wonderful journey." On Wednesday, August 14th, 75 protesters marched from the All Saints Church to the 9th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals in Pasadena. The protest was in regards to a hearing for a case that would eliminate the Temporary Protected Status, or TPS, of 300,000 immigrants. In 2018, President Trump called for TPS to be removed from El Salvador, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Syria. The ACLU has filed lawsuits for 9 TPS persons and 5 children of TPS persons Mexicans whom are considered U.S. citizens. Ahilan Arulananthem, the legal director of the ACLU of Southern California, is quoted in a Pasadena Weekly article as saying the Trump administration's decision to end TPS for people from these countries was motivated by its racism against non-white, non-European immigrants. TPS has previously been given to immigrants who have come from countries with armed conflicts, environmental disasters, or conditions that prevent safe returns. On August 7th, around 300 people in Pasadena gathered to mourn recent victims of mass shootings in Gilroy, California, El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio. The El Paso shooter reported to police that he specifically targeted Mexicans, making this shooting the largest attack on Latinos in modern American history. During an interfaith panel discussion at All Saints Church last week, Congressperson Adam Schiff commented, "There is no escaping the clear and present danger of white supremacist violence in the United States and the terrible urgency to confront it. Simply put, it's domestic terrorism." A rally will be held at Villa Park in Pasadena on August 22nd as part of the Support Immigrant Rights rallies happening around the country.
So, man, Robbins is going away.
I know. Tragic.
That's some good barbecue, bro.
I know.
That's some good barbecue.
Man, I mean, that puts a real dent in the culinary calendar in Pasadena, man.
Big Mama's went away.
Oh, man.
In June or July.
Yeah.
Now Robbins is going away. And we don't have any barbecue in Old Pasadena at all.
No
barbecue joint. So
I've got one around the corner for me in Koreatown if you ever want to come out.
I'm not going all the way.
It's a long way,
there, bro.
But it's good. It's
Well, we
legit.
still got Bonnie B's, but
okay.
Robbins Sunday. I'm telling you, I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna try to get down there this weekend.
Yeah.
I talked to Robin today, and he's just real emotional. I mean, he's getting a lot of media coverage. Robin is having people come into his spot telling him, "My wife and I met in that booth."
Oh, man.
I mean, a lot, man.
How long? 37 years.
37 years.
Wow.
I mean, at one point, I mean, this cat is a real deal, and I give Robin a hard time a lot. But at 23, he was an IHOP franchise owner
in Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Now where were you at 23? I know I wasn't thinking about owning an IHOP.
Yeah.
But man,
I was eating at a lot of IHOPs.
If you haven't gotten a chance to get down to Robbins, I mean, definitely check it out because that's some great food, and that's a Pasadena institution.
Yep.
That really should be celebrated, and I'm glad that the Weekly has had a chance and other outlets to really give him some media coverage. But it is the end of an era.
Yeah.
But I want to jump into this because you did some really good work here this week.
I don't get told this very often.
No, he doesn't, especially by me. But he does good work, and he did some really good work this week.
Yeah.
And I think that this is an award-winning story. You interviewed George Takei. Is it Takei?
Takei.
You interviewed George Takei.
Yes.
Star Trek fame.
Mr. Sulu.
Mr. Sulu.
Yes.
Earlier this week. And I was moved by that story and how it relates today. So why don't you hip our viewers a little bit to kind of the theme and the basis of your story?
So basically, George Takei, Mr. Sulu from Star Trek fame, his family, his parents were immigrants, or were they born here? I don't know. He was Japanese American, definitely officially here. His parents were definitely legally cleared to live here. I forget if they had actually
U.S.
been born
citizens.
here or not, but U.S. citizens, and they were among the people who were cruelly and unfairly tossed out of their homes, rounded up to the internment camps after Pearl Harbor, and so now George, in his later years, he's in his early 80s, he decided to really take a look back and educate, because a lot of people have forgotten what was going on there, and that it even happened, these camps. Yeah. And so he wrote a graphic novel, or helped write a graphic novel called They Called Us Enemy. And then they have a TV show called The Enemy. And I forget the second season's, subtitle.
It's on AMC, though.
Yeah,
right?
but it's on AMC Monday nights. Infamy, the terror. Infamy
That's what it
is
is.
what it is.
That's what it is.
And he really shines a light on this horrible period of American history. But he also, in the interview, he's saying that when he was 5 years old and this started, he didn't grasp just how horrible it was for the adults. And so they got sent to Arkansas from California, where I grew up, Arkansas. I'm telling you, that is not pleasant. And so he wound up finding it a fascinating other world that his imagination ran free in many ways. I'll give one example that when they would shine, the guard towers would shine spotlights on people as they went to the bathroom at night. And it was meant to be intimidation in the name of so-called security. But to young George, he thought, oh, they're just lighting the way to the bathroom for me. Thank you. Or he just saw things completely different.
He saw
than
the
his
good in the
parents.
people.
Yeah.
I'm going to read a passage of this if you don't mind.
Sure.
My parents were Americans who met and married in Los Angeles. I had an infant baby sister, a brother who was 4, and I was 5, and we were locked up because we looked the same as those who bombed. This country vilified us and made the decision we were potential spies, saboteurs, and needed to be locked up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's deep stuff, man. That's deep. What moved you the most about the story? I mean, because usually, he is an arts guy. It falls in your purview and your beat, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't your usual, hey, come check out yuck, a couple of hijinks at the ice house. This is something a little bit deeper. So what moved you the most?
Well, I think he gives a really stark portrait of, it talks about the night that his family got thrown out of their house, like instantly, just ordered out, and the mom's carrying his younger sister in one arm and a bag in the other, and dad's trying to lug a couple bags out of their things, and and George is just kind of overwhelmed and not realizing what's going on, and thinks, well, maybe it's a good thing, and then comes to learn that it was incredibly harsh and difficult and unfair, and it affected so much the rest of his life by driving him to want to prove that I belong here, I am somebody.
Councilman Gene Masuda, his family was also in an internment camp. I think that's a part of our history. I think that is, you and I, we know it, but we're in the media, but I think it's largely overlooked. We know what happened to African Americans. We know what happened to Jewish people.
Sure.
But we don't understand that some Germans, lots of Japanese people, lots of Japanese Americans, even some Italians were placed in internment camps by this country while we were doing propaganda saying how bad Hitler was and all this. We were separating families. I mean, some of these families were destroyed forever. The lineage was shattered forever. And that's where the tragedy, I think, in this kind of thing really, really lies. Now, he's coming to Romans.
Yeah, he's coming on Tuesday at 6:00.
Okay.
But it's officially sold out, though you can. They're going to sign extra books, I believe, and you can go pick up the books, but not without. You can't actually go up and talk to him if you're not already officially aware that you're on that list.
You have to be on the list as of this point to talk to him, kind of thing. But you can still get a book.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Have you read the book? Have you seen
No,
the
I
book?
have not, but I've seen a few images. It does look amazing. And he described it at great length, and it sounded just really riveting.
Wow, man. You know what? I'm gonna tell you this. In all the years we've known each other, and I'm sure you've experienced too, every now and then as a reporter, you read something that impacts you so much that you actually wish you wrote it.
Yeah.
And this was one of those stories for me that I really wish had my byline on it, but I'm really proud of you for the job you did here.
Thank you.
And without being heavy-handed and editorializing and bringing it back to today, it brings it back to today.
Well, thanks.
It reminds us of exactly what's going on right now, that we are at a point. I mean, we just saw the little girl crying at the beginning of this show, and that's George Takei.
Yeah.
All those years ago.
Yeah.
Did he tell you what happened after they got out of the internment camp? Did they go back to
Not really.
that house?
I don't know. I didn't get into that part.
Because a lot of those homes, I know families lost those homes.
Yeah, probably. I believe he said they lost their home, yeah.
Wow. So they got out of this thing, and they're instantly homeless. They instantly don't know where they're going, what's going on. So we're not going to do Facebook Live today. Man, thank you for joining me. It's been a great day.
Yeah.
I know we got a couple of minutes, but why don't you tell the people what's going on with Carl Kozlowski, where you're going to be doing your comedy?
Well, I've got a couple of shows, unfortunately, coming up in October. I'm going to be October 5th. That's a Saturday night at the Comedy Store in what they call the Belly Room. And it was not because of the belly. It's just a show. And then the 12th, I'm being flown out to Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
First time in my career being flown out for a big show.
Traveling comedian.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Just ordered the plane ticket today that they paid for. And then the 19th, you can see me in the show that I really recommend coming out, the Parish Hall at St. Monica's Catholic Church in Santa Monica. I put on shows through a group called Catholic Laughs. That's where we're flying out to Dallas with also, but anybody can enjoy it. It's just really just that it's clean, classy comedy that's still funny, that you could do in a church.
And toss out your website.
Okay, I'm having it built. It'll be ready in a couple of days, but www.carlkoz.com, and it's Carl with a C. And Catholic Laughs is spelled CATHOLIC and laughs.com.
So they're flying you all the way out to
Dallas. Yeah.
All expenses paid.
Yes. Nice
Obviously,
hotel.
they've never caught your act. All right, for Carl Kozlowski, I'm Andre Coleman. Thanks for joining us.
All
Say
right,
goodbye.
thank you.
Have a great
Bye.
weekend, everybody.